The US Women's National Team just got knocked out of the World Cup in the first round. To put this into context, the US Women's National Team has won the last 2 World Cups and is the most successful international women's soccer team. Losing in the round of 16 is the worst finish in US women's soccer history.
This was a failure of a World Cup.
So what went wrong? By the end of this video, you'll learn exactly what led to the team's downfall and how you and your team can avoid the same fate. Heading into the 2023 Women's World Cup, the US Women's National Team were yet again the favorites to win and were looking to make history as the first team ever to win the World Cup 3 times in a row. They had the most talent and were known for having the most funding out of all the women's teams due to the United States' love of sports. Although other countries were increasing their level in terms of soccer skill and popularity, the US was still far ahead and few expected any country to knock USA off their throne. However, when the World Cup started, although they thumped Vietnam 3-0, their following performances were less impressive. They tied the Netherlands 1-1, then Portugal 0-0. For the first time in a decade, the US Women's National Team didn't finish first in their group. The team didn't seem to mind though. After their horrible performance against Portugal, players were seen dancing, smiling, and signing autographs. This was heavily criticized by former US Women's National Team player Carli Lloyd, who was a 2-time World Cup winner.
I've never witnessed something like that. To be dancing, to be smiling. I mean, the player of the match was that post.
But the team was quick to fire back at Lloyd for her comments.
To question the mentality of this team, it's insane.
They denied that they were any less dedicated than former years and reassured the public that they were committed to maintain USA's World Cup winning streak. In the round of 16 game against Sweden, they were supposed to wipe out this small country whose highest placement was a bronze medal. In the game, USA played the best they'd played all tournament, but they missed easy shots and wasted plenty of opportunities to score. At the end of regulation, the score was tied 0-0, and after remaining scoreless in overtime, the game went to penalty kicks. In the penalties, both teams scored their first 2 PKs. Next, the USA went ahead after their keeper saved a PK. Then, 2-time World Cup champion Megan Rapinoe sent her shot over the bar. She reacted by laughing in disbelief. Then, young upcoming US star Sophie Smith sent hers over the bar as well. And last, former World Cup champion Kelly O'Hara hit the post. After Sweden made their final penalties, they were declared the winners. So why did USA get knocked out of the World Cup so early? The first problem was, after the Portugal game, their second consecutive tie, they were laughing, dancing, and signing autographs. Now, there's nothing wrong with having fun, but having fun after a game that was essentially a loss shows a lack of competitiveness and fear of the possibility of losing.
You're lucky to not be going home right now.
This was further displayed when, after missing her PK in the PK shootout, Rapinoe just laughed it off, as if it was unfathomable that she could miss a PK and their team could get knocked out. But both of these examples show that even in dire situations, they never thought they could lose. Don't mistake this for having the confidence to win, which is definitely necessary. But the US showed almost an arrogance that they would win. Or as Carli Lloyd put it,
the entitlement.
When you rest on what you've done in the past, rather than striving to earn your respect each game, that's when the issues arise. The US played like they knew they were former World Cup champions, so they deserved to win again. Not like they were going to have to battle for and earn their next World Cup trophy. Their second issue was their sense of complacency and satisfaction with being mediocre. After tying a game they should have won, which just barely allowed them to advance to the round of 16, Captain Lindsey said this:
"We don't want to be disappointed in ourselves. We still made it to the round of 16.
I know it's small, but notice how she said, we made it to the round of 16. This is a team who's never not made it to the semifinals. Former US Women's National Team World Cup champions Tobin Heath and Kristen Press said this:
I don't know in all my days that we said we made it to the round of 16. Like that was some kind of celebration.
I remember being like, we win or we bust.
And lastly, the team showed they were more a collective of individuals rather than a team. Not only by how they played, but a prime example is how Megan Rapinoe reacted after missing her PK.
There's just some dark comedy in me missing a penalty in my last game ever.
She was more upset about how she missed a PK and how that would stain her career than the team losing and what that would mean for US women's soccer as a whole. It just proved that the team wasn't unified for achieving a goal bigger than themselves and instead prioritized their own personal goals. With all these things combined, you have a recipe for disaster. So what could they have done instead? First, they could have used a bit of humility. Whether you're the most dominant team in history or not, it serves you well to still believe that every team you face has a chance of beating you and that you have to earn each win. What this does is push you to focus extra hard and give your 100% effort every time. Missing wide open shots and missing the entire goal on 3 PKs shows their lack of focus and perhaps a lack of preparation. I can imagine that their training camp to prepare for this World Cup wasn't nearly as intense as years prior, and the proof of that is the lightheartedness after terrible performances that the coach and the captains allowed. Another part of humility is putting the team before yourself. The only way that a team can perform its best is if each member of the team puts the team's mission ahead of their own self-serving desires. This will make you be unselfish by passing more or doing the dirty work, because you'd ultimately rather have the team win and advance than get your own personal glory. Here are some practical ways to improve in each area. To put humility into practice, before every competition, Respect your opponent and use the fear of losing to push you to give your absolute best so that you have no regrets no matter the result. To reduce complacency, after each competition, always ask yourself what you could have improved. Since the US team essentially tied 3 games in a row and failed to score in consecutive games for the first time in its history, it's likely that the team just tried to put the previous game behind them and believe that they would win the next one, rather than asking themselves what they all could have individually done better and apply that to the game plan for the next match. And to play for the team rather than yourself, ask yourself, if I could only have one, would I choose the team's glory or my own? And just know that if you're in a team sport, seeking your own glory will be detrimental to the team's performance, no matter how bad or how good your team is. Remember to always be humble, meaning never underestimate your opponent's abilities nor overestimate your own abilities. If you do this, you will perform your best each competition and avoid an embarrassing loss when you know you could have done better.